call to order the regular board meeting for October 16th, Caledonia Community Schools. If you could all rise for the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I see a bunch of familiar faces, but just in case, if you're here for public comment, we do ask that you fill out a card. You do have 3 minutes to speak. We ask that you address the full board at that time. It's not a time to do personnel issues or individual student issues. So we ask that you follow that. There's also some information on the back of the card. We do have a full agenda tonight, and please be aware that when we do have, every meeting, the information that we're voting on is information that we have seen at more than one meeting, including committee meetings. It has been discussed, so while there might not be much discussion on it tonight, that discussion has already taken place. So just in case that is a question in your mind. Could I please have roll call?
Yes. Barbara Garcia,
Yes.
Brandow,
Yes.
Eastich, yes, Morris,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Sadoo,
Here.
White.
Here. And welcome, thank you. At this point in time, we will move on to consent agenda. We have 4A, September 18th, 2023 minutes, October 2023 personnel reports, and September 2023 payables.
I move that the Board of Education approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Do we have any questions, corrections, clarifications on those? Can I have roll call, please?
Barbara Garcia, yes, Brandow,
Yes.
Eastich, yes, Morris,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Sadoo,
Yes.
White.
Yes, motion carries. As we move into our reports and information, we are pleased to have our student representative from the high school here tonight. So I'm gonna go ahead and allow you to go first. Sadie, welcome to you, and then we will move the bond update until after that.
Hi, I'm Sadie. So first I'm going to talk about student council. Friday night is coming up. It'll be on Thursday, October 26th behind the high school. Trick-or-treating for the little kids is 5:30 to 6:15 p.m. and the scaring will be from 7 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. And then we had another successful homecoming week. The theme this year was summer nights. The type assembly this year was inside on the half day. The day for homecoming was very hot and beautiful. And we had an all-time record participation for the parade because some of the youth programs participated in the parade. The class officers participated in golf cart decorating for replacement for the floats, and we were able to drive the golf carts on the track at halftime. And we held the dance outside again at Scotland Yard, and it was a huge success. Turned out to be a really great night. And then we held our 3rd annual Good Samaritan football game against Granville too. The Links program had a great time with the fall activity held at our local Deep Roots. The kids were able to do the petting zoo, corn maze, pumpkin patch, and enjoy delicious fall snacks. The Be Nice group is planning to go to the annual synopsis on November 8th. The CHS Book Club meets monthly for food, fellowship, and rich discussion about literature. We partner with our local KDL to borrow book bags that include book club, discussion questions, and hardcover copies of the novel. This month we are reading Peg Shepard's The Cartographers, a thriller for Spooky Month about a young woman who discovers a mysteriously dark past about her father who passed away. She finds herself on an extraordinary adventure about seeking the truth about her family and inevitably about herself. And then this year, this CHS Debate Club, students learned about the fundamentals of congressional debates and took part in a debate session. Students will compete at Wayland on October 25th in another round of congressional debate sessions. And that's it.
Thank you so much. Busy at the high school. Any questions? Thank you very much. We appreciate you being here. At this point in time, we're gonna move to 5, which is our bond update, the rest of 5, I'm sorry.
All right, Mr. Hess is unable to be here with us tonight. He's had some family illness issues that he's been required to be at, so I will be pinch hitting. I will do the best I can, and if there are questions I can't answer, we'll get the answers from him. The playground installation at Cal-El is completed, and it's a beautiful new large set of equipment there for the kids at Cal-El, and it's been getting a ton of use already. Emmons Lakes Playground was scheduled to be in here now in this time period, but that has unfortunately been delayed until next spring, because one of the main sections of the playground just shipped recently from overseas, so that's not gonna permit it to arrive in time to be installed, and most importantly, to have the underlayment laid underneath it, the safety cushioning stuff. It needs a certain temperature range to be installed, so that will be on hold until spring. At the community center, progress continues to be made. The competition pool has got a massive amount of scaffolding in it right now, as they are working to finish stuff up on the ceiling area. And the leisure pool, the second pool, is getting ready to be poured, so good progress being made there. There will be some continued finishing work on Craft Avenue right there near where the crossing is, and for that whole entire section that will eventually be paved here in the very near future. Dutton, great time there at groundbreaking. Wonderful night that was, and have had a lot of people commenting on how much they enjoyed that, so appreciate everybody's efforts who made that happen. The first two sets of bids for Dutton will be voted on here tonight, so we will discuss that more in a minute. Bid Pack 2, which contains, I believe, 25 other sets of bid categories, was released, and that was released last Friday. And those bids are due back on November 2nd, at which time they'll be opened. So at the November board meeting, we will probably have quite a raft of bid awards to make. We will see how much we can get through prior to that meeting, and then what remains we will award in December. Okay? And I think with that, that's the overview for tonight.
Do we have any questions that Mr. Wheeldrer can attempt to answer? Alright, thank you. I did see a few people come in a little later, so again, if you are here for public comment, we do ask that you fill out a card with your name and information on it. There's information about public speaking on the back, and you do have 3 minutes to address the board when that time comes up in our agenda, so thank you. At this time, we're gonna move on to 6, which is discussion items. We have 6A, which is our 22-23 audit. Mr. Reese?
So this is always a good time of year for me to be completing one fiscal year and now be able to start focusing on a new fiscal year. So in finishing up the 22-23 year audit, this past week, we had Kevin from Gaybridge and Company present. He was our lead auditor, and he came to present to Finance and Operations Committee. And then I gave a brief update also to our Teaching and Learning Committee. So this is just gonna be a brief recap to the whole board and community, and also this will be posted on our website. And I'm also pleased to say that in this audit period, it was an unmodified audit, it was a clean audit, and we got the highest rating, so that also feels really good. For the year-end recap, this is just a summary of the big items that happened in last fiscal year. So in 22-23, we had a foundation allowance increase of $450 per pupil. So now that foundation allowance is $9,150 that we receive per pupil. Then we're also pleased to have had some enrollment increase this past year. That was 29 FTE increase from fall to fall last year. So that was great because in the prior 2 years with COVID, we had seen decline. So we're starting back to be on a positive momentum, so that was really good. Also, last year, of course, we received starting in 2020, roughly we've been allocated $10 million in ESSER COVID funding grants. And so in last year, what hit actual audit books is $3.6 million that we spent in those grants. So I've outlined those here. ESSER 2 was roughly $728,000. In the prior year, 21-22 year, we had hired with ESSER grant funds like nurses and our health safety paras. Those positions we maintained, however, those were not funded in 22-23 with ESSER. The nurses, thankfully, we were able to have some state categorical grants that offset those costs, and the health and wellness and safety paras, those moved to our general fund expenditures. So in 22-23 for ESSER two, that $728,000 was for staff training, tutoring, HVAC upgrades. The next categorical for ESSER was 98C, and that was $251,000 on interventionists. And then ESSER three was 1.2, almost 1.3, and that was for staffing with mental health supports and also interventionists. And then ESSER 11T, and that was with specific subgroups. That was 1.3 million, also with interventionists, English language, learning support, and itinerant support. So that means with audit ending at 3.6 million expenditures, the remaining ESSER allocation of 2.7, almost 2.8 million has to be expended by the end of September of 2024. So big picture, general fund ended with 7.9 million in revenue, 69.5 million in expense. So we had a positive 1.3 million net change in fund balance. So that leaves us with 10.3 million fund balance, or 14.9% of expenditures. So the 21-22 year audit ended with 14.8% fund balance, and now we're at 14.9% fund balance. So overall, like, we pretty much maintained a balanced budget, so that was great. Linked in here, I'm not gonna put it on the screens because there's a lot of numbers. This too will also be on our website, but that's the budget comparison, and you'll be able to see from 21-22 audit, each budget amendment to final audit.
Do you have any questions for Mr. Breeze? Go ahead, Jason.
Less of a question, just more of a, good job. To get through a clean audit, and, ultimately it's kind of like a report card, and, the highest mark, so that was outstanding. And then just another kudos to all of the team, because I think if I remember, our original adopted budget for last year was pulling like 2 million out of fund balance, and then we were able to contribute some more to it and keep it at a healthy level, so kudos to the rest of the team too.
Absolutely, thank you, job well done. Are there any questions? All right, thank you very much. We're gonna move to 6B, which is 2014 bond refunding resolution. Mr. Breeze?
So yes, these opportunities come up periodically when our existing bonded debt becomes callable. So with our 2014 bonded debt, we are able to refund that. That opportunity comes up in May. So we're looking to start that process. That creates currently an estimated 1.6 million in savings to our taxpayers. So we would like to take advantage of that opportunity. So tonight, that would mean the board authorizing us to start that reissuance, that authorization for those bonds.
Any questions on that? Thank you, great opportunity, thank you. All right, we're going to move to 6C, which is section 21F, virtual instruction authorization. Dr. Diaz and Dr. Tobert.
Good evening, members of the board.
Welcome. It's nice to be here once again. This is pretty short, I think, on our part. Just something to update you on. Section 21F is a part of 2013 legislation, which essentially allowed 6 through 12, grade 6 through 12 students to increase their learning experiences, specifically in the digital space. So students could take up to 2 courses virtually to essentially continue their learning experiences and increase their abilities by way of whatever courses they saw that fit within their scope of interest. That took place up through COVID, and then with COVID, of course, there are a variety of digital experiences that took place. There are particular pieces of legislation that were enacted at that time, allowing us to provide digital experiences. So that coupled the COVID timeframe, coupled with 21F, essentially was in place through last year. This year, there's been the addition of language, which now has allowed us to expand learning opportunities in a way that is much more targeted, much more geared toward anytime a student could essentially learn in the course of a school day, but may be disrupted in some way. And so I'll let Dr. Diaz take it from here.
Thank you. So as you may be aware, we already offer lots of online course opportunities through 21F. So students in their high school schedules may take American Sign Language is a big one that they take through Michigan Virtual Programming. And so that is something that has been in existence here in Caledonia and continues to be. This new subsection 14 is an added kind of maybe caveat to say that we're going to formalize an opportunity to do additional school-wide virtual learning in the event of 3 very specific situations. So one of those would be emergency closures. So for example, if we would have a very heavy snow this winter where we would use all of our allocated snow days, we could then, instead of looking at making up snow days at the end of the school year by adding days, we could look at doing virtual instruction during those days and making them up that way. So it's very specific. Student testing days would be another option. So again, this hits at secondary primarily, where we have the ACT, SAT assessments that hit all students in certain grade levels and no students in other grade levels. And so in terms of management of the assessment, making sure there's appropriate supervision that's mandated, and giving students something other than kind of busy work, giving them some actual virtual instruction, this would allow that to also take place. And then up to 30 hours of professional development. So in lieu of in-school days, we could do virtual days for additional staff professional learning. There are no plans at this time to utilize those days. However, we cannot plan to utilize the days until you all say it's okay for us to do so. So that's what we're really bringing forward this evening for your vote, is to be able to say, yes, if one of these 3 situations arises, that you're comfortable with us working together with our teachers union and with you, the board, and our families in terms of notification to say, now here's what we'd like to do moving forward. So it's kind of a proactive mandate to say that in the event that one of these emergency situation arises, that we would have your support to work then to build a plan accordingly.
Any questions?
I have a couple of questions. I'm wondering if you can speak to how this will affect really both the teachers and the families. So in the event of, for instance, a snow day, a teacher may have something in class prepared. Now they're going to be expected to teach virtually that day. Can you speak to how that's going to work well for our teachers?
Well, we're not exactly sure yet what that would look like, but it would not go into effect until we had utilized all of our kind of gifted snow days. So the state allows for us to have so many snow days and we're held harmless. So it wouldn't be until that next snow day that we would be looking to implement this potential virtual. And just because we have permission to do it doesn't mean that we would decide to do it. So we could still ultimately say, we're gonna add a day to the end of the school year instead of doing virtual. So that's something where we would work very closely with the teachers union to determine what makes the most sense for staffing, for our staff and students. So yes, making that shift, right, from your in-person instructional plans to then something that's accessible online it is different. It's a different way of doing things. So that would be where that planning and discussion would take place with the teachers union.
So then I guess the other group of people I have concern about would be the parents. I know with my kids at home, if I all of a sudden have a snow day, that doesn't mean that I can be at home and they can all do virtual. So I would then opt my children out of that and they would be marked absent. It sounds like, to me, I guess I see a lot of red flags of this being a concern for families that are not prepared to facilitate online learning at a moment's notice just because it's utilized. So can you speak to that at all?
So again, this is brand new and we haven't developed a plan yet because this process has to take place before we can even think about what that plan would look like. But it would be something we'd have to work very closely with teachers unions as well as our families to see what makes the most sense and how that attendance would be tracked, because you have to have a certain number of students participating in order for a day to count as instruction. So there's some of those layers that we would have to look at as well. Students wouldn't necessarily have devices at home unless we kind of anticipated, we're getting 16 inches of snow, and so we would send, computers home with students in that way. So there are lots of logistics that we would have to really think through before making a decision to move forward with virtual options.
I guess my only other comment on that is just that, so we're given gifted the snow days from the state of Michigan. If districts across the state all adopt virtual for emergencies or weather type situations, I would foresee the state saying, oh, you don't need those snow days. I mean, is that something that we're concerned about as a district, or even just looking across multiple districts that we would be, end up forced to use them?
Yeah, well, I'll just speak to a couple things. I think the genesis of this in the State Aid Act this year, and it was put in, it's all the money stuff, right? So it was put in with that because a number of districts have been doing these sorts of things for quite a few years now. And there just really hasn't been any specific rules about what you can and what you can't do. And so I think this was an effort by the state legislature to try and put in some guidelines on how this has to happen. And some of the issues you're raising were some of those that have been questions about how do we communicate, how do districts at large communicate. So coming out of the COVID time, as both of these folks have pointed out, it really kind of, I think, changed the dynamic a little bit. And so more schools have been saying this might be a direction we're interested in. So that's why this was put in, and as Dr. Diaz has pointed out, we can't even start to think about it really until we've jumped this procedural hoop. So
Right.
That's what it is.
So are there any strings attached to this, like, is it tied to funding in any way?
The only funding would be like the daily attendance reimbursement that we receive normally for each day's attendance. There's no additional grant dollars or funding allocations tied to utilizing or not utilizing the option of virtual learning versus adding a day to the calendar. So no, there are not funding ties in that way.
So it sounds like you're gonna try to work out a plan with the team and see how it goes. I would assume that if it doesn't go well, that you'll just not do it.
Right, so we have to jump through the hoop of getting your approval to even start to develop the plan. That plan then would include having the union at the table as well as making sure we're communicating with parents and guardians. And so that would be our starting point, is if we have the support of the board to start thinking about what that would look like in the event that we would reach one of these emergencies, and then having that vetted. I see it as kind of what I would call a living document. So similar to what you said, if we put something together and the feedback is, well, this sounds like it would work great, but this piece, we need to figure out something different. So we kind of go back to the drawing board and we say, okay, well, how do we make some adjustments so that we can ultimately have a plan that feels comfortable from all sides?
And I would add, as Mr. Wheeldryer spoke to, there are districts that do this, right? And so it is a matter of ensuring that we look at what has worked in other districts if we do decide to go this route. So I wouldn't say we would abandon necessarily if it didn't go well. We would just continue to tweak and find out what is going to work well should we branch into this type of learning.
Well, it's gotta work for everybody though, right? It can't work for one group and not another, or it doesn't work at all.
And certainly, I mean, outside of the state, I mean, there are people that think we're actually crazy for having snow days, because there are, you know, states where they just simply do, a snow day really is a home education day. And so, I mean, there are models out there of other, you know, people that have been successful in doing it. And certainly we would have a ton of hoops to jump through, so I don't know how we would possibly do all of that. Aside from the fact that obviously planning for a PD day or something that you know well in advance to make up the difference obviously would be very different than something like a snow day, so. But yeah, so we will just hear more on all of this.
Yeah, I just really think that as we all experienced through various different ways during COVID, there's an awful lot to think about here. If we would even want to venture into this space, so I will reiterate, there are no plans to do so at this time. But this is just a way for us to, if we wanna explore whether this even could make sense, that's why we're bringing it before you now.
Any additional, Brittany?
Yeah, I would just add one thing, that when we were in our committee meeting last week, one of the things that we talked about was if we were going to even attempt something like this, was to consider doing it on a day we could be really planful around it, right? So not a snow day that no one was aware of, right?
Right.
But that like testing day or something like that. So I think that the team has really good ideas in place of like, okay, if it's approved, what would be the right way to figure out like if this is something that would work for the district, for everyone involved.
Everybody good? Right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we are going to move on to 6D, the Traversa software. This is for Tara, and we have Mr.
Mr. Kingsbury, yes,
Yes,
Mr.
Mr.
Hess.
Kingsbury.
You know, filling in, you know, Michaelita is more than capable, but I'm up here just to do a brief, overview, and then any questions specific to Traversa, because she is well versed in using that in some of her past roles. Is that correct?
That is
All right, I got that part right, all right. But when you think of transportation software, a lot of times routing comes to mind. It's a big piece of it, that is a big piece of the routing that we need to have in place. And our current system that we use is called Polyplot. It is a system that was created by Oakland Intermediate School District, very localized to the state of Michigan, a few outliers like ourselves that have used it. It has been around for about 10 to 15 years. When you look at things in terms of scale, it still takes a lot of work, no matter how many customers you have. So with a small customer base and advances in technology, it takes a lot to keep that up. So they are no longer going to service that system. So we can use it until things start falling apart, but we're not going to get any help in fixing it. So this is a natural for us to look at a replacement for Polyplot. Traversa is one of the industry leaders in that, and it has a lot more capabilities than Polyplot does. And just some of the things we'll look at is our routes. It has some very unique features. We can use GPS-enabled devices to go out and create those routes, saving efficiency or saving money, being more efficient, and saving time, because that was one of the big concerns about the ride times that our kids had from after school to home or to school. So this will really help us maximize and make things as efficient as we can. Field trip modules, we do a ton of field trips. How can we help plan, route, organize, basically kind of put your name on the schedule electronically to get that field trip in place? Maintaining our fleet, all of the parts that we need, that's in the resource management. We're just telling us when we have to change the oil, when we have to change the air filter, or do maintenance on brakes. This is a great way to remind us to do that. Resource management, and I've went in and I've looked at it. We can track certifications of our drivers. All of the different tools we use, the amount of gas we use, all those type of things. Custom reports to help Michaelita be more efficient as she works with our drivers, our runners, and our mechanics to make it very efficient in terms of practice. And one of the things that we really like is the GPS on buses. We're going to talk about a software app we could add, but just knowing where our buses are at real time is important. And before this, we talked at committees last week, we threw in a few other things about, well, we want to look at the price of GPS on all of our fleet. So that being vans and trucks and those types of things. Or what about cameras? So we really threw them a curveball. It was even before the meeting, but we're gonna ask them to go back and gather some information. But one of the capabilities it does have is there is a parent app that can be used. So if the district would choose, a parent could go on their phone, just like Life 360 or Find My Friends. I'm sure some of us use all of those to keep track of our kids or whoever we're following. But there's that capability there. And sometimes there's concerns. What about if somebody gets that information, knows where that bus is? So that is available. We'll keep having discussions with committees the next time we meet, because that was brought up as a possible deterrent, or it's a possible detriment, I should say. So we're gonna review that, look who else is using that, and Matt and Michaelita will get all that information together for us. And then we'll talk at committees, and our hope is in November to come back with what we're asking for and answer any questions that you may have as a board, so that we can move forward with that. So if anybody has any questions, I'm gonna step right aside.
I think I'm ready now. All the bugs are gone. So do you guys have any questions for us?
This is some software that you definitely feel comfortable with and that you think is a benefit for all of us.
Yeah, so when I started with Comstock Park in 2018, so this goes back to when I first started here. So in July of 2018, I had 1 month to implement a brand new software and get buses ready to go by August 12th. It was very difficult because you had to bring myself up to speed in training and my dispatcher up to speed. We were able to get it done within 6 weeks, so I'm absolutely comfortable with it. And then I used it from the time that I arrived at Comstock Park in 2018 until I left in 2023. So I'm very much comfortable with using the software.
Your job is certainly difficult enough, so we want you to have what makes this easier for sure. Are there any questions? Tim?
So it sounds like there's, excuse me, there's extra costs that are in the numbers that we're looking at today. We're gonna try to round all that out so we have a full proposal to know where we're
Yes,
looking at to
so,
spend.
yeah, we have some
Preliminary.
preliminary numbers here, but yes, we absolutely will narrow those down. Do you want preliminary now or do you wanna wait?
If you have more information, that'd be fine.
Okay, yeah, so right now, the annual, so let me bring this down a little bit. Alrighty, so for the licensing in the MyRide M12, which is the app for the bus tracking, so that's gonna be $38,822. There's a one-time purchase and programming and installation of $28,000, and then the GPS software and installation cost is $50,000.
So we have those numbers. I was just asking, is there anything beyond that we're not sure?
16 vehicles.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, there's 16 vehicles in our fleet. We're rounding about $1,000 per vehicle, so we can anticipate an increase of about $16,000 to add that to our trucks and vans.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
How does this compare, the software that we would be moving away from? Are there annual fees that we're paying now for that software? How does this compare?
Yeah, so right now, Polyplot is about $9,000, so this will go up to $17,000 for just the routing software alone. Yes, and then when you compare the apples to oranges, I kind of put it as if you're in a cab and an Uber, so you know how a cab comes to get you and you just don't know when they're coming and you hope for the best. Uber, you can pull up your phone and you can track the car coming to you. That's the way I look at the way these two compare to one another. So Polyplot has done its job as far as getting the routes together, but Traversa allows us to be the Ubers, and we make sure that we can provide parents with all the information that they need and in a timely manner.
Jason?
And then just one thing that we talked about in committee too was that Polyplot's like out of service, like they're not supporting it anymore, so.
So it is on the down slide of support. So it's very difficult. So right now, so my router was on vacation for 2 weeks, which was great. And we allowed her to get some time off, and Kevin and I and the office was able to do some routing.
it's very difficult to get things done within the day. So if you call and you change your student's bus, schedule, and it needs to happen that afternoon, we can't get it changed for a day or two. With Traversa, we can do it the same day, within hours.
I do think we'll have parents that will be pleased, because I think they've been asking for some time if we will have the systems that allow them to track buses as well. So I anticipate that that will be a positive change for parents.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I
Very
know,
yes.
I know one parent in particular, had a recent experience and, just being able to provide them with timely information and for them to be able to see the busing in real time is gonna be important for all parents.
Thank you very much, we
Thank you.
appreciate it.
One thing to add, we're looking at our school safety grant, which we have funds for this year. The GPS portion would be paid for through that. So if I look at the number correctly, that 50,000 plus 16, that would be through our safety grant funds. Now, the ongoing costs would come from our general funds, but that one-time cost would be covered by that grant.
Great, thank you. Appreciate it.
And if I can add one note, knowing that we were anticipating making some sort of move in this area, there is an amount of 40,000 built in the current 23-24 budget for that software amount.
Perfect, great, thank you, we appreciate that planning ahead. All right, on to 6E, earthwork and site fencing, Dutton Elementary, bid pack 1. Mr. Wheeldred?
Yep, relatively quick overview here tonight, which we did provide more detail in committee, but we are moving forward tonight with asking for board approval on 2 bids. The first being in the bid category of earthwork and site utilities, so this does all that underground work and repairs for footings and the rest for the building. We have terrific news here. When we opened the bids, we had 8 different bidders, which is tremendous. And the bids came in significantly under what the estimates were. So we're just at the first of, as I alluded to, 27, I think, total bid categories. So we have a long way to go. But on the very first one to come in at, the number is more than $1 million under what was estimated, gets us off to a really good start and provides us with a little cushion for some of our other bid categories. So tonight, we are recommending in earthwork and site utilities, the low bidder, DeSalle Excavating out of Zeeland. The bid amount plus they will be bonded amounts to $1.8 million. Again, the estimate there from our construction company was that could run as high as 2.9 million. Then the second bid category is temporary fencing, and we had 3 bidders in this category, and the recommendation is for that bid to be awarded to Straight Line Fence Granville in the amount of $74,070. This is fencing to protect the site during the construction period. This is not actual fencing that you will see at the end, but it's the temporary construction fencing. And both of these are the low bidders.
Thank you, great news. Any questions? All right, we're good with that one, thank you. We're gonna move on to 7, which is board and superintendent reports. We're gonna start with A, which is teaching and learning committee.
Thank you. The Teaching and Learning Committee met on October 12, 2023 at 7:35 a.m. Dr. Trober started us off describing the latest information associated with 21F, a piece of legislation we heard about tonight as well that provides guidance for virtual instruction. The administration is recommending approval of the district virtual learning plan that governs fully online virtual coursework as outlined in state law, and that also allows virtual instruction to occur in standard in-person course for up to 15 days in the event of, as you heard, emergency closure, student testing, or professional development. Board approval is required, and parents must also be notified of the district's plan if there is one. There are currently no plans that would take advantage of the up to 15-day provision for online courses, but action tonight would permit the administration to consider it. Because operations are getting back to a familiar rhythm, the district is considering formalizing and systematizing field trip requests. The change would bring clarity to factors such as payment options, alignment and experiences across the schools per grade level, and curriculum correlation. The district will continue to discuss this topic in preparation for the spring, which is a heavy field trip time period. Ms. DeVries and Mr. Wheeldryer shared information associated with the Finance and Operations Committee. Mr. Wheeldryer addressed the new transportation routing system we just heard about and that is being proposed, the bond construction update, and changes in the Public Employment Relations Act. In particular related to bond projects, the proposed addition of 2 classrooms at Caledonia Elementary are not going to be moving forward at this time due to there being a significant surplus of classroom space in that building currently available and across other buildings across the district as well. And so funds are going to be utilized toward renovation of existing spaces. In addition, Ms. DeVries provided an overview of the audit report we heard about tonight, as well as a look at the final budget numbers from the 2022-23 fiscal year, and a discussion of authorizing action to enable refinancing of the district's 2014 bonds. The meeting adjourned at 8:21.
Thank you. Any questions for that committee? All right, thank you. We're gonna move on to 7B, which is Finance and Operations Committee.
Yep, the Finance and Operations Committee met on October 10th at 7:30 a.m. Members present included Sadhu, Esich, Wheeldryer, Kingsbury, and DeVries. Kevin Kozumplik also attended. He's the lead auditor from Gabridge and Company. He presented the 2022-23 completed audit that we saw here. District received a clean audit with the highest ranking possible. Ms. DeVries presented the budget comparison and bridge reports outlining where the district finished for the year. This will be a topic and voting item at the October regular board meeting here. Ms. DeVries also spoke about the opportunity to refund the 2014 bonded debt, providing tax savings to the community, currently estimated at 1.6 million. We're also voting on that tonight. Mr. Hess presented bid results for the site work at the new Dutton Elementary School, and we'll be voting on that again tonight. He provided a bond update on the 2020 and 2023 bond projects with timelines. He presented information on the opportunity to participate in using solar energy with a small percentage of our current energy cooperative with MISEC with the 3 of our buildings. This will be a voting item again tonight. He presented the bid results for security transaction window film as part of the security grant and will be voting again tonight. The bid package has been released for the old administration space next to the ECC, and a pre-bid meeting is taking place this week. Mr. Hess provided an update on Craft Meadows boiler replacement project and finished up with presenting information on the plans to move forward with the new transportation software we heard about called Traversa. Mr. Voogdeveen presented the bid results for the High School North Learning Commons technology upgrade and will be voting tonight. Mr. Kingsbury provided an update on various legislation changes that impact education. Dr. Trober provided an update from the Teaching and Learning Committee agenda, with Mr. Wheeldryer finishing up the meeting with a superintendent update related to various bond projects. In particular, the addition of the 2 Caledonia Elementary classrooms that we're recommending not to move forward at this time, as Ms. Dr. Barbara Garcia alluded to. Funds will be utilized towards other stuff. Lastly, the committee expressed the desire to discontinue the bi-weekly construction update meetings with Plant Moran and to intend to incorporate that information into the monthly committee meetings with additional meetings scheduled as needed in the event that there's other input that's required. And we adjourned at 9:30.
Any questions for that committee? All right, thank you very much for your time on that. We're gonna move on to 7C, which is board reports. Thank you for wrapping up the Adopt a Road to the Nichols, who both showed up to help, and Jason, appreciate it. I did not hear back from anybody as far as availability to attend the MASB and provide a delegate. I just wanted to make sure that that is accurate. Okay, all right. At this point in time then, we will move to, are there any other board members that have a report that they'd like to share? We're gonna move on to their superintendent report. Before I do, just in case there's been a few that have walked in, if you were here for a board comment, I do ask that you fill out a card and get that to us, and there's speaking information on the back of there.
All right, thank you, President White. We got a couple of things for you tonight. First of all, another big celebration occurred just a few weeks ago when Caledonia Elementary was named as a blue ribbon school, and so that's terrific. We're going to be doing a more full recognition for them next month here at the board meeting, so that'll be coming up. Congratulations to the marching band who took home a first division rating at their marching band festival last week. Over the weekend, our equestrian team participated in the state championships. They've already won regionals, and they came in second place at the state in Division A. So that's called the reserve champion, which is a nice way to say it. Congratulations also to the golf team. Our girls golf team came in second at regionals, which means they qualify for the state golf tournament, which will be held at Michigan State University at Forest Acres Golf Course there. And then tonight, right after this meeting, 7 o'clock is the high school choir concert, so you can just head right on over after this meeting and take part in that. I also neglected to mention too that our girls golf team coach, Veronica Van Wagener, was named Regional Coach of the Year as well for the outstanding achievement. And then I wanted to share one other thing with you. Many of the committees, we've talked about this, but just wanted to highlight a couple of things again. This is from Stanford University has done some research where they're trying to track achievement, especially in the wake of COVID. And in particular, they're looking at achievement and how it changed between state standardized testing in 2019 and in 2022. And this data is for grades 3 through 8. And so I wanted to just share a couple things with you about how Caledonia fared in that. This is the kind of thing that you get if you go to their website, and they have minimum districts participation size, so you see a number of them grayed out here because they didn't have enough kids taking tests in each of those, I presume, to be statistically significant, I guess is what it is. And they also didn't have, as you can see on this map, Iowa and New York, for instance, in data, but across the nation they've been trying to compile this. So in reading, the darker the blue here, the greater the learning loss during the period of COVID. And in green are areas where there was actually gain between 2019 and 2022. And the darker the green, the better that was. So let's zoom in here. Here we are in West Michigan and Caledonia. You see they're outlined in red. We are in nearly white. It's the lightest possible blue here. And down in the left-hand corner, you see another chart which has plotted all districts across the nation, and I'll blow that up here in just a minute. When we hover on there, you can get a little reading if you go on the website. And so what you see here between 2019 and 2022 in reading, the drop in score for Caledonia between 2019 and 2022 was at a 0.04 grade levels, or essentially 7 days of learning lost in reading. So that's where we stood. And here, if you expand that chart I was showing you, this is the plot of all the school districts that are represented in the data that Stanford has gathered from across the country. And the horizontal line that sits there right in the middle would be that there was no change, that the way performance was in 2019 was the same it was in 2022. And you can see again the colors there. The further below that horizontal line that districts get, the darker that blue becomes, or the reverse if you're going above. So if we get this little block out of the way, that's where Caledonia sits on that particular chart. Just below that horizontal line is that 0.04 loss would indicate, and you can see how relatively few districts are above that line. And I will just tell you anecdotally, it's mainly focused in the states of Texas and Alabama that had the gains during this time period. So if we then white out all of the districts that are not in Michigan, just look at Michigan districts, this is what that picture becomes. And it's a little hard to see where you're sitting, perhaps, but Caledonia, then you get a very interesting picture that emerges. And I highlighted here, these are the highest districts in the state. So Caledonia tied with one other district, Bloomfield Hills, as the top performing district between 2019 and 2022. So coming through that entire period of COVID and all the craziness that happened during that time period, students in Caledonia performed the best out of anybody in the state during that time. So that's a credit not only to our students, but our staff and all of our support people around. When we look at math, here is the math, same map. Now you see something interesting when we zoom in on Caledonia, because now you actually see green. And as it turns out, between 2019 and 2022, there was actually a gain for Caledonia in 0.25 of a grade level on average for our student performance between grades 3 and 8 there. So that's a quarter grade level increase during that time period, which is terrific. And if you take a look at the same kind of plotting, now you see this is nationally where we sit. Again, get that big box out of there. You can see how few districts across the nation performed as well as Caledonia did during that time period. And again, if we white out the rest of the nation and just show Michigan, Caledonia sits pretty much alone at the top there. So thought that was information that should be shared and information that really shows the great work that was done here in Caledonia to bring our students along and keep them progressing, keep them learning well through that entire time period.
It really was amazing and a testament to our staff and our administration and just incredible job and our families that worked hard with their kids at home and thank you to everybody. It just really is, it was incredible to see that when it came, and I certainly wasn't gonna steal your thunder on the Blue Ribbon School, but to get to celebrate that a second time so recently, it was Crazy Hair Day, I think it was at when we showed up at Caledonia Elementary, so the teachers asked for a redo on the picture. But it was just so much fun to be there that day, so thank you very much. You all good?
I'm good.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tim.
Is there a link to be shared with the board?
Yeah, I can get you that.
Great, thank you.
Okay. All right, and we are at this time are going to move on to public comment. Melissa?
Missed you guys. I haven't been here in a while, so it's nice to be back. So when I look to do these reports, I typically email all of the CEA members and say, tell me something good. The board needs to hear the good things that we do. And because the summer and then all the other things, I have quite a bit of good news that everybody wanted me to share. Starting with at Craft Meadows, Melody McClusiak designed some hands-on learning activities that allowed her students to examine physical and chemical changes in density. The fifth graders made slime, ice cream in bags, and homemade lava lamps as part of their science. Mrs. Damascus, Kaylee Bisbee, Taylor Castens worked tirelessly to organize and execute a great day for students at Craft Meadows and Duncan Lake. Along with the help from Fallon Lakotis, Allie Siekman, and Lainey Platt, students were able to participate in the Unified Special Olympics tournament that was taking place with 10 other schools from the area. It was pretty amazing. At the high school, Kara Stevens set up a day for the Chamber Choir of Grand Rapids to rehearse alongside some of the CHS choir. They were able to make music together, and students learned about ways they can continue to be involved in music post-high school. Jeanette Ruthven and David Andersma have successfully met the pilot capacity for the new virtual learning program at the high school. They've settled into their new home at South Campus, complete with their own secure exterior entrance, student parking spaces, and flexible workspaces. They're working on community building in the visual learning program that has included a team-built playlist, games, and puzzles for brain breaks, and brainstorming a program name at this point. Joyce Graham at Caledonia Elementary designed a descriptive writing lesson for her second graders based on pumpkins that the kids had decorated and painted. They then had to write about their pumpkin, and the kids had to guess what pumpkin went with their descriptive writing. Various schools have welcomed the Caledonia Fire Department to come visit with students and discuss fire safety. For many students, the highlight was being able to tour that big red fire truck and to see our local firefighters in their gear. Teachers at Paris Ridge and Emmons Lake have taken advantage of this fall weather by planning some field trips. Kindergarten students at Emmons Lake were able to take their learning of the 5 senses on the road to John Ball Zoo, where all 75 students participated in an animal sense wild encounter. Karen Rath and her fellow third grade teachers are taking Paris Ridge students to Blandford Nature Center this Friday. They're extending their learning of Michigan history. Students will experience how the first settlers of Grand Rapids thrived in the area by fishing, foraging, and planting gardens. And a lot of them had also mentioned, Mr. Wheeldryer, they appreciate you're being noticed in the classrooms and at the schools, and that's very much appreciated, so thank you for taking time to do that.
Thank you very much and welcome back.
Thank you.
Alright, at this time, we are going to move on to our action items. We have 9A, which is the MISAC solar participation.
I move that the board adopt the resolution to participate in the MISAC North Star Energy Clean Energy Project.
We have a second?
Second.
Second by John. We know that Tim has some questions on that, so if are you going to try and field those?
I will do my best.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. I was out of town on business last month and was reading through this and noticed that this was a startup organization.
Well, MISAC is an organization we participated with for a long time. They are attempting this energy partnership, I believe, with one of the with a company that I think connects with consumers. So that's this North Star Energy is, I believe, working with consumers on this project. That is
Right, but the wind farm isn't built yet. It's
Yes,
in
correct.
progress.
It's solar and they are right, they're gonna be building this over in the Thumb area, correct.
Okay, so we're saving about 14% on 30% of our electricity.
Right.
Which is great. I think it's fantastic. It comes to about $750 a month or something like that. My question is have we looked at the risks, or if we're not able to deliver the power during the school day, I can just imagine what.
Well, I think that's where, right, I think that's where, right, I think that's where the MISAC cooperative, it's a supply of electricity, so they're asking for this commitment up front so that they can construct that, just so that they know that there are enough who would participate in the energy purchase. But as you know, it's coming in at with, it must be some sort of clean energy kind of grants that are helping to fund it, so that's what's enabling it to come in under. And it will be electrically, we'll have the electrical supply as part of the grid.
I can add too, by joining this group, we save that money that you mentioned, Mr. Morris. We can pull out at any time. The only thing associated with that is we just go back to our previous rate, about 0.5 cent per kilowatt hour. So that's the only ramification of pulling out of the cooperative.
Right, I just would hate to see that, have a power issue it's always gonna be during testing, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm just being
Right.
more thoughtful here and bringing it up, so.
Yep.
But I like the savings, I think it's great.
Additional questions?
I'd just like to add that this will also be a rate that will hold for 15 years, which is also good given where electrical rates have been going.
Any additional questions? Alright, could I please have roll call?
Barbara Garcia? Yes. Randall?
Yes.
Isich, yes. Morris?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
White?
Yes, motion carries. On to 9B, security transaction window, RFP.
I move that the board approve the district to enter into a contract with Grand Valley Glass for a sum of $37,405 for the provision and installation of secure transaction windows.
Or,
Thank you, second by Tim. Any further questions on that or clarification needed? Could I please have roll?
It will be from security grant funds, so.
Right, perfect, thank you. Appreciate that. Roll call?
Barbara Garcia? Yes. Randall?
Yes.
Isich, yes. Morris?
yes,
Nichols?
Yes.
White?
Yes, motion carries. On to 9C, high school North Learning Commons.
I move that the board approve the CHS North Learning Commons AV purchase as presented for an amount not to exceed $54,762.18.
We have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Any further discussion or questions on that? All right, can I please have roll call?
Reverend Garcia, yes. Randall,
Yes.
Isich, yes. Morris,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
White.
Yes, motion carries. 9D, earthwork and site fencing.
I move that the board approve the Chrisman Company to initiate contracts for the provision of earthwork and site utilities and site fencing for the Dutton Elementary Bid Pack 1 as recommended.
Support.
Thank you, Jim. Any further questions? Can I have roll call, please?
Reverend Garcia, yes. Randall,
Yes.
Isich, yes. Morris,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
White.
Yes, motion carries. 9E is the 2022-23 audit.
I move that the board approve the June 30, 2023 audit as conducted by Gaybridge and Company.
Second. Thank you, Tim. Any further questions on that? Can I please have roll call?
Reverend Garcia, yes. Randall,
Yes.
Isich, yes. Morris,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
White.
Yes, motion carries. On to 9F, 2014 bond refunding resolution.
I move that the board approve the authorization to refund the 2014 bonds.
We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Tim. Any further questions? Roll call, please.
Reverend Garcia, yes. Randall,
Yes.
Isich, yes. Morris,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
White.
Yes, motion carries. 9G, section 21F, virtual instruction authorization.
I move that the board approve the district's virtual instruction plan in accordance with section 21F, subsection 14 of PA 103 of 2023.
We have a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Tim. Any other questions? Can I please have roll call?
Reverend Garcia, yes. Randall,
Yes.
Isich, yes. Morris,
Yes.
Nichols,
No.
White.
Yes, motion carries. At this time, we are going to go into closed session. We do have, as shown in our, does our agenda go down further? Is that the
It's
end?
there.
Okay. We do have the ability to come out of closed session to have an agenda item that would require action that is anticipated at this time that we would. I don't anticipate it will be long, but I cannot tell you how long we will be in closed session. No decisions are made in closed session. It's just a time that we get to hear information at the request of a family member, and that's the way it is given to us. So we are at this time gonna go into closed session, and we will be back. If you're not here, I can follow up with you if you need any information, Greg, afterwards, or if you're staying. Okay, all right. If you need something, let us know.
Thanks, Marcy.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Have a good
We need
night.
a
Oh,
motion.
I'm sorry, yes, we will do our motion.
I move that the board convene in closed session as permitted under the Open Meetings Act to consider student discipline and reinstatement at the parent's request.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. May I have roll call?
Reverend Garcia, yes. Randall,
Yes.
Isich, yes. Morris,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
White.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. We are coming out of closed session at 7:21. Do you have it listed on your, do you have it as a roll call item on your sheet? Okay, can I have a motion, please?
This is a motion to come into open session.
Move to come into open session.
Second.
You don't?
No.
Okay, typically we don't have it as a, typically we just come out of open session with a time.
Yeah, I didn't think we need a motion to come back.
Well, you know what, we're gonna read a roll call and you're gonna put it on there right now, okay? Alright, could we do roll call, please?
Barbara Garcia, yes. Randall,
Yes.
Isich, yes. Morris,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
White.
Yes, motion carries, thank you. We now have 11, which is our additional action item. 11A is student discipline reinstatement.
I move that the board conditionally reinstates student 2122.1.
Support.
Thank you. Can I please have roll call?
Reber Garcia,
Yes.
Randall,
Yes.
Isich, yes, Morris,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
White.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. I just need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Second by Jennifer. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, everybody.